Oh,
All right. Good evening, everyone. It's very special to be with all of you. I'm just gonna show you real quick who's here. We got some dear friends here. Everyone wave hello to Judah. Okay, very special. This is really special for me. Hold on a second. This is wild. This is really special to be able to bring Rav Judah in some form. Although Rav Beauty and I we're trying to come together to make it happen. The Gashmias at some point we'll get you over here because Rav Judah is incredible and it's really special to be able to share a little bit of him with you. I mean, where do I even start, Riv? That is the question. As I mentioned to many of you, we just talking about this 21 years ago. I went to Reshit, Shana Aleph, my first year, and I learned with Reb Judah. Reb Judah was what's called the Av Bayit, which is like I looked after the students there. No, you
master
wanna
of
change?
the house. Master of the house.
The
Master
master.
of the house.
There you go. So translate, and you know there's the thing that you say you don't remember what people say, but you remember how they treat you, right? There's a thing like that. How they make you feel. There you go. Thank you. You don't remember what people say, but you do remember how they make you feel. And I remember a few things that Reb Judah said, but I definitely remember how he made me feel and how he made really all of the students. And that was, in terms of my own journey of moving forward in Judaism, coming from a very kind of cynical American kid to finding my path within Torah. There's no question that Reb Judah played a significant role in that. Really, just in terms of how he made me and everybody feel. It wasn't, it was just it's just who he is, and it's really special. And I'm sure that can also come through this evening as well. Even in this form. I just want to share one thing that I do remember you said to me, Reb Judah. I was pretty unhappy in the beginning when I was at Reshit. Reshit has a bit of like a thing. It's a kind of has the idea that it's for like rich New Yorkers, right? And I was neither rich nor New Yorker, and I was pretty out of place. I was very much out of place. And I remember sitting down with Reb Judah, and I remember where we were sitting in the base medrash. And I remember you said to me, you said, because I was saying I basically came down, I was feeling lonely. And he said, we're all alone. We're all alone in this world, but let's be alone together. Right. And I remember you said that to me, and that was really, and I felt that. Is a genuine thing coming from Reb Judah. And Reb Judah, kind of changed my life and so many other people. And he continued to make a role, an impact at Reshit. And then now he's the director. If I say anything wrong, just correct me. Director at Camp Hask. The honorifics, they're important at Camp Hask, which is, for those of you who don't know what Camp Hask is, it's like a flying fox, but for the more frum community in America. And it's an incredible organization. And he's written an amazing book that Rabavi was talking about just before, just how meaningful that book is for so many people about tshuva. And if you don't have it, you can go out to Gold's and get it and enrich your, when you're bored of me talking in shul, you can read Reb Judah's words. And it's really just a profound honor to have you here, Reb Judah, to share some words. And I just want to before we begin, first I'm going to spotlight you. Thank you, Max. Where are we? How do we do this? You would think I'd remember how to do this. Let's do this. No, I know how to do it. Getting a bit of PTSD from this whole thing here.
I know, it's no joke. It's the same thing. I'm looking at my old virtual backgrounds over here, and I'm like, it's bringing back all these memories.
Awful. What awful times. Although a lot of people remember, including Sandy, who's here on the video, remembers that time of Lag BaOmer when, I don't know if you remember that, like we had that virtual Lag BaOmer Kumsitz.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. I do want to, before we begin, I do want to just thank Charlene and David. I have the information here somewhere. Charlene and David for sponsoring this evening's learning. So thank you so much to Charlene and to David in honor of their parents, of Jack and Hillary Friedman and Issy Orwin, whose yard sites are in these days, amongst these times. So thank you so much for sponsoring this evening. It's a very, very special way to remember them and to honor their memory. And so what a beautiful thing to do, to have Reb Judah come here and to honor them with Divrei Torah. Without further ado, I'm going to flip this camera around, Reb Judah, so you can see everyone and talk to everyone. And is it not full screen? I think it is full screen. Spotlight. Okay, give me a second. Just chill, guys. Just chill.
Oh, hi everyone. So nice to see you. Hi everybody. Good evening. Shana Tova. Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah. Loud and clear.
Yeah, David? There's got to be a David in the crowd. No, I mean, Sarah?
Raise your hand, David.
Got it right. Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah.
There's David. Here's David. David, where?
I imagine. Could Rebecca, you hear me okay there? Okay, shalom everybody. It is so special to be with you. I don't know, I feel like everybody raise your hand if you love Rav Noam Sender. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so glad to be here to be with you. Thank you for making time. Thank you for inviting me. This is what it is. I mean, this is it. This is the call of the day. I know like our time zones are a little bit different, but I imagine we all know that all the synagogues of the world read the Torah portion this week, inviting us. We're all standing before Hashem. The Talmud tells us that Hayom, that the day that statement is referring to in Torah, that scene is unfolding on Rosh Hashanah, when we all stand before God. Every woman, every child, every man, everyone, and everything, every aspect of creation stands before God. Kulchem. Lifnei Hashem Elokeichem, on a level playing ground, all together, all before God. When we stand before God, then we are indeed on a level playing field. So wherever we are in the world, Australia, the land of Israel, or anywhere in between, it's especially during these days, even without a virtual hookup like this, where there's a sense of togetherness, where there's an importance to gather, to kind of come together. Roshechem, Shiftechem, Shotrechem, those who are the most scholarly, the leaders of the community, and the water schleppers and wood choppers, the day laborers, everyone, all of us together are Lifnei Hashem. So it's especially meaningful and especially important to be able to have opportunities like this. So I'm so grateful to all of you for the privilege of sharing some time and some space together, and may it be a merit for the family and a merit for the community and for all of us. I would love to pick your brain just for a point of reference. Has anyone heard of Rabbi Yitzchak Tovia Weiss? By a show of hands here? No. Okay, I appreciate that answer. Rabbi Yitzchak Tovia Weiss is a little bit of a celebrity where I come from here in Eretz Israel. He actually, I don't think he has a LinkedIn profile. But if he had a LinkedIn profile, it would say like his title is the Gaon Av Beistin of Yerushalayim. That means he's called, like his title is, he's called the Brilliant One, the head of the Jerusalem Beitin for the Eida Charedis. Now the Eida Charedis is an umbrella organization of all sorts of different religious services, particularly for the original. It's called the original Hasidic or Haredi community in Jerusalem. It was founded well before the state of Israel. They're known for extreme political stance and for their kashrus, the kashrus that they provide. But they're like really like an old religious organization. So he's the head of their Beit Din. He's considered one of the sages of Jerusalem, a man of 98 years old. Very gentle and very kind, and a person of incredible fire. Anyways, when he was just a boy, well before his bar mitzvah, he grew up in a small shtetl outside of Pressburg in Slovakia, and in September 39, after the German invasion of Poland, so there was chaos all throughout Eastern Europe, without hindsight, without people really knowing, history hadn't taken place. There's no precedent. No one really knew what to do. Do we completely capitulate, like the way it seemed that many governments were doing? The Jews just pledge allegiance to the German, to the fatherland. Do we run? Do we hide? Do we fight back? There was just a really nothing, like no real plan of action, and really no sense of what to do, guidance. Nobody knew. And the painful and tragic history of that time period is already carved in all of our hearts and collective consciousness, of just the lack of it was the Torah portion we read just a couple of weeks ago, of just the absolute darkness and blindness and absolutely no idea where to go and what to do. So the Rav of this shtetl in Pressburg turned to the parents of Yitzchak Tuvia. He was 11 and a half years old before his bar mitzvah. They turned to the parents and said, listen, your kid is the smartest kid in town. He's the most self-reliant and independent, intuitive, bright kid in town. We want to send him on a mission. Parents said, like, what are we going to do? They said, well, we don't have any idea here what to do for our community. We want to send him to Pressburg, to the big city where the Rabbanim, where there's like a little bit more of an organized Jewish council, and the Jewish Community Council, the rabbis and the elders of the community, the Rosh HaKahal, maybe they'll know what to do. So the parents said goodbye to their son. They didn't know if they'd ever see him again. They said goodbye to their 11-and-a-half-year-old son, packed him up food for the journey, and he took a sitter, and off this young child, Yitzchak Tuvia, went. Now, we know the end of the story is that he survived. He's the Av Beis Din of Yerushalayim. But the story of how he survived is just incredible. He got to Pressburg and walked into the shul and said to the Rav, I'm here as a shaliach, as a messenger from the rabbi of his shtetl. He said, who would like to know what to do. And the Rosh HaKahal, the head of the community, and the rabbi of Pressburg, both with tears in their eyes, said, we have absolutely no idea. What we do know, however, is that just today, and he pulled out an envelope, just today, this arrived by messenger. There were 5 tickets that were sent by the UK-based International Agency for Children. There are 5 tickets for the children, for 5 children to be selected from Yiddish Kinder in Pressburg, to be saved, to come on. It wasn't called a kinder transport, but it was some type of an evacuation where they'd be given safe passage to come to the UK, and and be adopted by families, taken into orphanages, to be saved from the war front. And the Rosh HaKahal, the rabbi, said, we have no idea what to do for our community. But what is clear is that it must be that Hashgacha Pratis, that divine intervention, that God has arranged that for you to be here today. You take one of these passes. They sent a telegram, a message back to his parents that he was sent off to England, to Western Europe. And within a few hours, Yitzchak Tuvia, this 11-and-a-half-year-old boy, was on his way to meet up with a group to be taken to safety on this train to go to England. He ends up in England, and doesn't know anybody, doesn't know anything, and they stuck him because he was a frum boy. They sent him to Schneider's Yeshiva Torah Emes in Stamford Hill. I don't know if anybody knows in Stamford Hill, but that's what was going on. They sent all the frum boys to Stamford Hill to learn by Schneider's, and he ended up actually meeting another young man, a refugee, a young child named Moshe Sternbach, who today is his partner as the Rosh Av Beis Din of Yerushalayim, of the Eid HaCharedis. And the two of them were like, Lebedika orphans. They had no idea what the fate of their families were and what was going to be. And it was shortly thereafter, these kids were, in this group of 1,000 children that that this British-based charity, Aid for Children, were arranged passageway. They had I don't know if anybody has ever worked in an organization. So Rabbi Sender mentioned, and Yudi News daughters worked with us. We have this wonderful program in upstate New York for individuals with special needs and autism, developmental disabilities. And a couple times a summer we have, it's called Experience Day, the Camp Hask Experience. In parentheses, but gematria, it means the donors are coming. Everybody, get dressed nicely, put on your shirt with the camp logo on it, clean up the garbage and make sure that everybody's straightened up, comb your beard, because the Gevirim are coming. The people that went to Noam's Rabbi Sender's yeshiva, the rich people from America, from New York, are coming. We have to impress them. So get your act together and behave yourself. Everybody on your best behavior. So they took these kids because there was going to be a big Kabbalah's panim, a big reception for King George. Now, I don't want to trigger anybody. King George was the Harry's Elter Zeta, right? I think I got that right. Right? He was the Queen Elizabeth's father. I'm from Muncie, New York. I don't know anything about this stuff except for when I go to the supermarket when I'm in New York and I see the tabloids, which I shouldn't be reading anyway. But I know he's like the Elter Zeta of like the Gingy princes, so that are always in the news. So, anyways, King George was coming. They had like a big Kabbalah spot for him, donor day or whatever it was, and they trained these kids. They had them like they're gonna say, okay, here's what we're doing, lining them up on the street, 500, the boys on this side, the girls on this side. They put on these little like sailor suits. I saw a picture online. They have these little like sailor suits with the little knee-high socks and shorts, and these little bows and little caps for the kids to be there. And they had them rehearse, the official, to show their gratitude, to express their appreciation to the monarchy, to say thank you for the British government sponsoring these their safe passage and taking care of these refugees. They had them learn the song and had them learn the God Save the King or the Queen, whatever the niggin is, and they prepared them for this like Kabbalah Panim that was very, very important. Days and days and days of rehearsal and preparation. Anyways, the day comes, and I don't know. I saw a movie about the King George, the King's speech. I don't know if it was how true it was, how real it was. It was I found it to be a very moving, emotional movie. He seemed like a person with a leiv tov. Seemed like he was a decent man, a good man. He had a heart. That there was something there that wasn't just form, but he seemed to be a person of a real sense of a real kind and generous king. Anyways, at least that's the way it came across in the King's speech. Maybe because it highlighted his speech impediment and his struggle with it and the vulnerability that came along with it. But he seemed like he was a person who had a heart. Anyways, the king comes. His motorcade comes through, and the kids are lining the sides of the road, doing their little wave there with their little, stupid little ties or whatever they had them on there with the little uniforms, the little sailor suits. And they singing their song in honor of the king, waving. And in the midst of all of this formality, in the midst of all of this, rehearsed, very formal way of greeting and expressing to the king, Yitzchak Tuvi Weiss, the Gaon based in Yerushalayim, described what he remembers as a child experiencing there, an 11-and-a-half-year-old boy in the streets of England, that as the king passed by in his little motorcade, in like this open kind of car, waving, enjoying the appreciation of these children and the loyal subjects, one of the kids was a little boy from Czechoslovakia, just lost it and broke rank and ran out in front of the motorcade. He just screamed out. He goes, "King! King!" Jumped in front of the motorcade, like totally out of order. And like the guards like lunged at him. And the whoever the Av Bayit was of whatever orphanage was says, no, like runs to grab him. And kid throws himself out there in front of the motorcade and he screams out, "Mein Mame, my Tate, mein Schwester, mein Bruder, my brother, my sister, my Mame, my father, my mother. They're still in Czech, they're still in Slovakia. Save them, save them, save them. Hatzilu, save them." It was a commotion. Anyways, they grab the kid, they shush him, they pull him back to the line. But King George noticed, he saw like there's something. This kid was crying, "Mame, Tate." That you don't have to know English, know Yiddish or know English to understand. The cry of a child screaming, "My mother, my father, my sister, my brother." They pulled him back online, and he was crying, hysterical. A few minutes later, one of the king's men comes and speaks to the child, the madrich, whoever was there, just to understand what that was all about. 2 weeks later, through diplomatic back channels, the child's mother and father and sister and brother were given safe passage from Czechoslovakia and were brought to England and survived the war together with their child, who was reunited with his brother, sister, and parents. The Alter Rebbe, the first Rebbe of Chabad, the author of the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe, frames this time period that we're in here based on statements from our sages as this time period being a time where the king, where the Melech Malchei Amlachim, the king of all kings, leaves his regular place, the frontal modality. Of course, this is all just metaphor, the way that we relate to the king. But the king leaves his throne, El Melech Yoshev al Kisei Rachamim. God has this proverbial or metaphoric throne, a place where he dwells, the palace, king in his palace. He leaves his palace, he comes off of his throne. V'hamelech basadeh is, so to speak, in the field. Now, whatever that means, what it certainly seeks to imply is that there's a sense of accessibility, of informality. The sadeh, the field, is a place that's hefker. It doesn't belong to anyone. Usually, to get to the king, I don't know how it is in Australia, but I don't know. There's no way. If I want to talk to Bibi, unless I'm going to go like confront him in a restaurant and scream in his face like people are doing now, like there's no way. It doesn't work. There's guards and there's Shabak, there's Secret Service, and then there's a National Guard. Like there's no way. Even to get to the president of the United States, what, you go knock on the door of the White House and say, I want to talk to the president? Who are you? Al achat kama v'kama. There's a sense of like steps that we have to go through generally. Now, we're fortunate to have the ability as sons and daughters of this great king to be able to speak to Hashem, address the Ribbono Shel Olam in prayer, and formal and informal throughout the day. But when the prophet tells us, Dirshu Hashem bihi matza'o, that we can seek out God at the time where he is found, Beoto Karov, when he's close, it's referring to these days when the king is among us, when the king is in the field and we're lining the streets. We say, Achat sha'alti me'et Hashem. We say at the end of our davening, we add Psalm 27, the end of our davening during these special days. There's one thing that I ask of Hashem. This I'll request. Ota avakesh. This is what I'm going to request. And then King David explains and describes what his request is before God. But there's a sense during these days of Rachamim, these days of compassion and Ratzon, of wanting, during these days of Elul leading up to the high holidays, that God can be found and God is accessible. That we have the opportunity to ask, Achat sha'alti, what is it that I'm going to ask? We get out in front of the king, so to speak. We're there on the side of the road and the king is passing by. I have an opportunity to shoot my shot. What's my ask? Reb Tuvia Weiss, I heard him say this story. I saw him say this story as a man in his 90s. When he revisits that dramatic episode as a young child before his bar mitzvah so long ago in England. He said that the king was right in front of our eyes. 999 of us stood at the side of the road as the king passed by. And there was one child, while all of us were waving and clapping and kind of sticking to the script. There was one child who realized the opportunity, who saw the opportunity, the Eit Ratzon, the opportune time, Bihi Matza'o, when the king was present, when the king was in the field, so to speak. Vayoso Karov, and threw himself out there and shot his shot and made his ask, my mama, my tate, my breeder, my schwester, my brother, my sister, just give them life. Over and over and over during these days, we're going to be before the king. There's more davening per day, in the next couple of weeks than we have all year. It's like, stretch a little bit. Before you work out, we do a little bit of like stretching just to kind of get loose. So there's going to be a lot of this going on. I don't know which way you turn, which way you're facing. There's a lot of this, a lot of turning, standing, sitting. Here you stand, now we sit down. We stand up, we sit. Here's where the congregation stands. Here the congregation sits. Turn the page, say in unison, say by yourself. Here it's accentuated. Here's where we sing. Here's where we sit. There's a lot of stand on the side of the road when the king passes by, wave, clap, wear the little string tie there in our sailor outfit, and have all the right moves and all the right things to say. But the most important thing for us to say, fill in your blank right here. We have our moment, we have our opportunity, bihimatza'o. The way our sages frame these days is that we have our opportunity to turn and to address the king in the most informal and open way. The Ribono Shel Olam is saying to us, I just give it to me, baby. Tell me, just say it. Get with it and say it. Take your opportunity, shoot your shot. So it's interesting that we enter into this kind of modality of turning toward the king and turning our attention to the king, specifically through slichot. I imagine in Australia, there's an Ashkenazi congregation primarily, right? Yes. So everybody you feel pressure from slichot, right? Right? It's like there's the anxiety of slichot, the terror of tshuva. Like, I don't know, my Sephardic friends, they've been doing this in Rosh Chodesh Elul, fathers and sons going together, grandparents, grandchildren, everybody's cool. They're singing, drinking tea, nana, sitting down in comfortable chairs, standing up when they say Hashem's name with a smile. I was at the Kotel on Motzei Shabbos with a couple of my kids. The chaver going on dates, couples, young Sephardic couples, women dressed all sorts of ways. They're out for a night on the town at the Kotel, taking pictures, selfies, posting on Instagram because it's slichot time. They show up. It's cool. There's something in the Ashkenazic experience that something went off the rails over here a little bit, and we seem to have relating to these days of awe as fearful days, days of terror and trembling, days where our life hangs in the balance, and we focus on one element of what the Rambam says of this sense that we're standing on a platform and the noose around our neck, and one thing we do can turn the whole world upside down. But if it's true that one thing that we do can turn the whole world upside down, then it's also true that one thing that we do can turn the whole world right side up. And that there's a great light that's being revealed in the world called the light of tshuva. And tshuva was created before the world was created, our sages tell us. It's the canvas upon which the whole story of the world is painted. It's the parchment upon which the story of humanity is written. Tshuva was created before the world. In other words, Hashem is creating the need for us to realign ourselves, to renew ourselves, to reassert ourselves, to straighten things out with our partner in creation, the Ribono Shel Olam. Not reactionary as a response to having broken something. That's not what tshuva is. That's an element of tshuva. The same way that we have the laws of kashrut. I imagine that if you've delved into the laws of kashrut, or if you're trying to maintain a semblance of a kosher kitchen, so I always thought that there's milky and there's meaty, there's fleishiks and there's milchiks, there's basar and chalav, right? You get the blue plates and the red plates or whatever, right? That's pretty universal, right? And then I learned a little bit more, and one day I heard about this thing called davar charif, that there's it's different for lemons and garlic and maybe ginger and onions. There's a whole other category. If you cut it with a milchik knife, and you cook it in a fleishik pot, hold on, there might be a problem with that because it transmits, and hold on a second. There's a whole other thing called this category. Now, wait a second. So I cut garlic with a parva knife, but I put it in a milchik pot that wasn't used in a day. But I put inside of it onions that were cut with a fleishik knife that was hot, and then I mixed inside of it something that, some pasta that I want to eat with cheese afterwards. Well, hold on a second. You've heard such a scenario before? So I don't know. I don't know. I throw away the thing and just buy a new one before my wife gets home, if I can. But there's I don't know. What happens in such a way? It's confusing. Okay, but there's something to figure out over here. So we look it up online. Maybe you text the rabbi. Maybe you look it up inside of the book. Whatever. But you figure it out. We have a process. We have a system called halacha. But we don't get tzabrachin over such a thing. We don't hide in a corner and feel ashamed and embarrassed. We don't question ourselves and our right to show up to Yiddishkeit. It doesn't affect our sense of self because whatever, in the course of making supper, things happen, right? things happen, and then you have to figure it out. There's a system for it. The same is true with mistakes that we make in relationships or with the Ribono Shalom. A Yid misses a mincha, it happens. We speak out of line, it happens in the course of conversation. We counted wrong, and we owe a little bit of money back to the government, or we haven't quite reached our quota for charitable giving, or in the course of dancing we step on someone's toe. It happens. We say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry that I hurt you." And to fill in the blanks more specifically, we own it. We claim agency. We say, I want to do better. I want to learn how to use a milchig knife and a part of a cutting board with a fleshig pot, and I'm going to work the steps of the process of tikkun. I'm either going to get rid of the strainer or kasher the knife and tovel the dish or whatever it may be, or because it was cold and it was fine, then it's okay. And I say, I'm sorry, and I'm going to do better next time, and we move on and we go forward. We go forward. There's a halachic process. The Rambam steps toward tshuva are just that. They're a process. It's not intended for us to become bogged down or weighed down or to question ourselves or our seat at the table or our relationship with God or our identity as caring, loving, concerned, engaged, healthy Jews. It's part of life. I mean, tshuva was created before the world, before the Torah was given. God said, hold on a second. I have a bunch of human beings over here and I'm giving them a system. I'm going to build into the system, into the algorithm, into the back end of the programming, mistakes, errors, so that there could be a constant realignment. So there could be a constant reevaluation and reassessment, so that there's a need to consider and a need to grow, a need to change, a need to adapt, not to call into question the relationship. See, like we get nervous, like, I made mistakes. Do you use that tune? You use that tune in Australia also? I'm a liar. I'm a pervert. I'm disrespectful to my parents. I'm greedy. I'm no good. I'm this. I'm that. I'm not worthy. It's terrible. I mean, it's a beautiful song. It's a song in major to try to lift our spirits. But I mean, I'm a murderer. I'm a thief. Hold on a second. I'm not a thief. I might struggle with talking during Chazarat Hashatz, but I might be somebody who comes late to davening often. I might forget bracha achrona, the after blessing after cake that I really wasn't supposed to be eating anyway. But a thief, I'm not a thief. But hold on, if you read the footnotes in the machzer or in the slichos, detailed slichos, hold on. And also, if you woke somebody up, you're called, you've stolen from their sleep. You are a thief, right? Or if you gave somebody advice passive aggressively, like you're actually called, that's actually worse. So don't think that you're actually getting off. You are a scum. You actually are a scumbag, and you actually do have to do a lot. You actually don't think that you're going to get off on this one. Murder, but okay, murderer. I'm not a murderer. Actually, that time when you were kind of slightly embarrassed somebody, that you actually actually did murder them. And that time you did this, don't worry, we're going to find some obscure Rishon or Baal Musar that made a comment once to somehow make sure that you can fit into the description of every bad thing that you ever possibly can be. And there's a certain comfort that, I don't know, I've found in that, and I'm not proud of it, but there's a certain comfort in yeah, I am. All these things, it's true, I don't know how many Taylor Swift fans we have here, how many Swifties we have here in the shul, but it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Yeah, yes, correct. Tell it to me. Hit me over the head with it. Let me feel something, even if that something is guilt and negativity. It's better to feel, I feel at least something, at least I feel some sense of fear or anxiety, or even if I feel distance from God, let me feel something so that I could have this feeling of Yamim Noraim, because they are days of fright and awesome and terror. That the whole reason why we have this vidui, the Hasidic masters explain comes from the same root as lahodot, gratitude. Vidui comes from the same root as hoda'ah, to express gratitude. But what does confession, vidui, have to do with hoda'ah, being grateful? The whole premise of standing here with God and before God and apologizing, the whole notion, the whole premise of it is predicated on an assumption. So to take a step back for one moment. These days, now, does anybody know what they're called in halachic literature? Rebecca, perhaps? Somebody, we have somebody over there. Yaakov? Jake? Moshe? Yoeli? Shner Zalman? I don't know. Who do we got over there? These days in halacha are called Yemei Rachamim V'Ratzon, days of compassion, days of mercy, days of Ratzon, of wanting, of awakening will. Ratzon. You know what? Like the construct is just to go. I take a step back. Just a very short, just meta history of what is happening over here. I mean, Rosh Chodesh Elul begins this 40-day unit in time called Rachamim V'Ratzon. Right? Sfardim begin their slichos on Rosh Chodesh Elul. We pick up a little bit later, but all of it is about Elul. Elul is about searching out God and searching ourselves out in that yearning. What happened in Jewish history on that Rosh Chodesh Elul? What's that first original Rosh Chodesh Elul? Anybody know? Just by a show of hands. It looks familiar. Like it didn't start in Slobodka 150 years ago, the Musar movement. Like Rabbi Yisrael Salanter didn't come up with the idea of Elul Zman. It's not where it came from. It wasn't the Bali Musar. The greatest moment in human history since creation was Matan Torah. The day that God says, I'm giving you a reason, a purpose. Here's your why. Right? Here's your why. It's likened by King Solomon, the wisest of all men, as Yom Chatunato, Yom Simchat Libo, the wedding day between Am Yisrael and Hashem. The day of the rejoicing of God's heart. That's the way Shlomo Melech describes it. And at the mountain, which is like held up like a chuppah, all of Am Yisrael saw, we saw the sounds and we heard the sights. It was this incredible experience of love and just ecstasy. Beautiful moment of revelation. And the way it's described in Shir Hashirim is Libavtini ba'achat me'inayich, you love me with one of your eyes. Because as Rabbi Nachman explains that pasuk, as we were looking at God lovingly with one of our eyes, our other eye was already wandering. We had a wandering eye. It's imagine the bride and groom, and the bride is coming down, and the chassan's checking out the bridesmaids. God forbid. Like while his bride is there, he's checking out what's on the side. Imagine something more awful. I mean, it's like how more painful, just more embarrassing. Just like what an abrogation of a covenant. The Torah is like the ketubah that binds us, and in the midst of this ecstasy, in the midst of this expression of love, we already like are thinking about the Chet HaEgel. We're already looking at like what else is out there. We're dancing. The Jews were dancing around this golden calf. The Bonu Shalom said, Moshe Rabbeinu comes down and it's like, what is going on here? All the bad things that took place in the world, Gilui Arayos and Shvichas Damim, Avodah Zarah, it's all taking place there. The Meshech Chachma describes this moment as the greatest moment of alienation that took place on a national level in our history. And the luchos are broken, they're shattered. And God says, I'm going to destroy the nation. Who needs them? That's it. Rebels. This is what they're doing at the wedding. And Moshe begs, give them another chance, give them another chance. Hashem says, forget it. You and I will start something new. I'll wipe these people out and we'll start again. And Moshe says, if you're going to hurt them, take me with them. And God says, Hashem relents and says, okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to come back up here and I'm going to pass over you. And I'm going to give you these 13 midos harachamim, 13 expressions or attributes of mercy. Adonai, Adonai, El, Rachum, V'chanun, Erech Apayim, Rav Chesed, Ve'emes, Notzer Chesed, La'alofim, etc. And we're gonna try to get realigned here. We're gonna straighten this out, you and I. And Moshe is invited. That took place on the 7th. The breaking of the luchos is on the 17th of Tammuz. And Moses cries out to God, and God says to Moshe, okay, I'm going to invite you back up to the mountain for a second chance. The day that Moshe Rabbeinu ascends Mount Sinai for a second time to begin another 40 days and 40 nights of prayer, of forgiveness, of revelation and tikkun was what day? Rosh Chodesh Elul. So that the end of this 40-day period, when the second tablets are received, are given back, you're given again to Am Yisrael, takes place when? 40 days later on? Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the day where the second luchos are given. Like baked baked into Jewish history to these days is forgiveness, realignment, another chance. The end of the narrative is already written. Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha. It's not the rabbi who says it, not the Baal Shem Tov, not the Reb Melech Biderman, not the Lubavitcher Rebbe, not Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, not Rabbi Sender, not me. Vayomer Adonai, God says, salachti, I forgive you. Kidvarecha, according to your words. Yom Kippur, Chazal tell us, Lo hayu yomim tovim Yisrael. There's no greater, more beautiful, blissful day of rejoicing, of togetherness, of reunification than Yom Kippur and the 15th of Av, when the punishment of the Chet HaMeraglim ended in the wilderness and people got married and there was a day of yichud, of togetherness. Yom Kippur and Tu B'Av, love and realignment, rejoicing, tshuva, tikkun, rectification. The end of the story is already written. We blow shofar, everybody sings Lashana Haba B'Yerushalayim Habnuya, Hashem hu HaMelech, Hashem hu HaMelech, Hashem hu Elokim, Hashem hu Elokim. We sing, we dance. We fill with optimism and hope and forgiveness at the end of Yom Kippur. This is a wonderful process. The process is unfolding, and God says there's one thing for us to decide. Do we or do we not believe? Do we or do we not trust the process? Vayomer Hashem salachti. I forgive you. I know what you did. It's not a secret. When we stand with the filled with tremor, Lago le'amukos, B'yom din, the God who reveals the secrets, B'yom din, on the day of judgment, L'bochein levavos, who searches out our hearts in judgment. What secrets do you think that God is like revealing here that we think are going to blow our cover? That we spoke out of turn, that we were rude to our parents, that I should have been more generous and more compassionate, that I overate, that I snuck cake on Shabbos, that I came late to shul, that I didn't daven Mariv, that I said a bad word under my breath, that I spoke Lashon Hara. Like, what's the secret? That I searched internet incognito and wasted time? Like, what secrets do I have? That's not a secret. Everybody knows that we all make mistakes, and that we all have plenty of things that we have to, that plenty of tarnish on the silver that we have to clean off, to reveal that glow, to reveal the natural beauty of the soul that's already there. Tarnish is nothing to feel embarrassed about. The candlesticks that are sitting here waiting to be polished before Yom Tif, don't feel shame and humiliation and pain and suffering over the fact that the oxidation in the atmosphere reacts with the surface of the silver, and it turns a little bit schmutzy. That happens. That's called being a human being. We make mistakes. We fall short. We embarrass ourselves and hurt the people that we're dancing with. You step on toes when you dance. We're dancing. We step on each other's toes. We make mistakes. We say, I'm sorry. That's vidui. I'm sorry. I apologize. And we do a little bit of work. We polish off the silver. We clean off the outsides, and we reveal this beautiful glow. The Rebbeinu Shalom says, like, I made tshuva before you were even born, before even human beings were created, because I know how, that's the way it was with Adam and Chava. Meaning, like, we know this is an old story. It's for us to decide, do we believe that the Melech, this judge who is sitting in judgment of us, is our father, is our loving parent who just wants us to come and be honest and be real and be straight and ratify the covenant that we have and validate the relationship that we're engaged in. Vidui is the same language as hoda'ah, gratitude. First and foremost, when we enter into the stance, into the modality, into the posture of expressing, of confessing, we say thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity and the privilege of being in this unconditional, loving, accepting relationship. How wonderful that it's not always like that with a business partner. It's not always like that. You mess over a partner, you step on their toes. A partner could say, "Hey, I don't want to do business with you anymore, brother. You're a good guy. We're losing money. This company is just unraveling. We're losing money. Stocks are down. Salam tak. We're moving on. The covenant is done." We know that marriages, I mean, whatever, we don't have to explain. Basar vadam, human beings, we got to work very hard. We got to work very hard to maintain and uphold our partnerships and relationships. When it comes to the Ribono Shel Olam, it comes to our spiritual life, to our religious existence, it's a little bit different. The terms are different. Vayomer Hashem salachti kidvarecha. Hashem says, I know you're going to fall short. It's okay. I'm giving you these 40 years. Remember, we did this before. I was going to destroy Am Yisrael. And then Moshe reminded me of the covenant. Bedil v'ya'avor. Because of the avos and the imahos, and because of this relationship that we have, this unconditional kesher, unbreakable bond, unquenchable love between us. Like, just do these 13 attributes. Like, just get into a grateful stance, to a stance of humility, of compassion, of loving kindness. Turn your focus on others. Stop spinning wheels in your head about your mistakes. What are you doing? Are you missing this opportunity of a luchot shniot, of a beautiful day called Yom Kippur? Echad b'sha'achas b'shana. To go lifnai v'lifnim, the Kohen Gadol, on the highest day, goes inside to the Kodesh HaKadosh, the Holy of Holies. Don't schlep your Averis and think about the king. Think about the big picture. Take 3 steps back. Look at this amazing relationship that we have together. And be grateful for it. And confess. And deal with the knife that you use, the power of a knife that you use to cut milchiks in a fleshik pot. Just figure whatever, there's steps to deal with it. Don't let that's not the emotions about it. Rosh Hashanah, we're not even doing vidui. Rosh Hashanah is all Hamelech. It's the beginning of Aseret Yemei Tshuva. And it's all about the king. When I was growing up, so the song, the main song that we sang in shul, the only song that I remember from my childhood, from like the High Holy Day, Vidui, and Slichos, I used to go to my dad on Saturday night to buy the seats or whatever it was for high holidays, and then did the Slichos. And I remember in school, the only song that we sang, I don't know what it is in your shul, but we sang Avinu Malkeinu. Before Yishai Ribo sang Avinu Malkeinu in Madison Square Garden, I was ochet to see Fish in Madison Square Garden sing Avinu Malkeinu. Rabbi Sender, are you with me? I was ochet to hear Avinu Malkeinu in Madison Square Garden with more than 15,000 people. But Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu, my Father, my King, have mercy, have compassion on me. Ki'ein banu ma'asim, because I have no actions, I'm not worthy, I'm no good, I've done all these terrible things. And what does that song make us feel? That's the niggin that we sing, the Chidushei Harim, Rav Yitzchak Meir of Gur, the first Rebbe of Gur, the grandfather of the Sfas Emes, of the Sfat Emet, said this is not the focus of Vidui. The focus of Vidui is not about us. He said, because if it's about me, we are where our mind, where our consciousness, where our thoughts, where our consciousness is, that's where we are. Our machshava, our thoughts. Rabbi Sender is someone who I love so deeply. I have friends, Brother Yuri. How many times have we seen each other in the last 3 decades, physically? But my heart, my mind is with you all the time. We are where our thoughts take us. Machshava, this is like 101 in consciousness. We are where our thoughts take us. You could be sitting, I don't know what the pizza store is called in your neighborhood, but where I grew up, the pizza store in New York was called Jerusalem Pizza. And in Yerushalayim, there's a famous pizza store called Big Apple Pizza. You could be sitting in Yerushalayim eating Big Apple Pizza, sitting in the Big Apple in New York eating Jerusalem Pizza, and you are wherever your thoughts take you. So the Chidushei Harim says that if I'm thinking about my Averos and these Vidui, and I'm going through all the mistakes and all my foul ups and all of my shortcomings and all of the things, the embarrassing, humiliating, painful moments where I hurt myself and others, where I let you down, where I felt like I'm a hypocrite, all the darkness and negativity and heaviness, if I'm thinking about that, then that's where I am. And that darkness, that heaviness will weigh me down. I'll become Migusham, and I'll never be able to lift myself out. He says, we think Sur Meirav Asei Tov, turn away from evil, from negativity, and do good means I have to like invest myself and like look through the garbage and sift through my mistakes and study in my sins so that I can do tshuva. He says, no, if you do that, you're never going to do tshuva. Because if you roll around in mud, we'll just be dirty. We'll just be filled with mud. You can't be filled with mud and get clean. You roll around in the mud, it's like we're sifting through garbage. Sur meira, he explains, mean turn away. Hafnei atzmecha meira, just turn your back to it and say, it's not me anymore. I'm out of that. I'm looking toward the light. String pearls with good thoughts and good ideas and meaningful activity. Help another person. Put a penny in a coin in the pushka. Say a pasuk in Tehillim. Call someone who might be lonely and wish them a shana tova. Reach out to a neighbor and give them a honey cake. You're baking cookies, bake an extra batch and give it out to some people by shul. Don't be stuck. Minhag Chabad is Erev Yom Kippur, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the busiest man on planet Earth with more responsibility than anyone, who had more consciousness and more knowledge of Yiddishkeit than almost anyone on the face of the planet, was sitting there giving out honey cake. That it should be sweet for other people. I mean, don't be stuck in your Averos. It's not a day, it's not a time to get into the stance of saying, oh, yo. But Rabbi Eger says a maniac hits themselves, God forbid. But someone who's trying to resuscitate themselves, does CPR, presses on their heart and awakens their heart, tries to get rid of the dust and the dirt from the garments and awaken the lave, the Yiddish heart that's filled with love of Hashem, filled with goodness, filled with kindness, filled with generosity and joy, to wake up that inside and say, I don't want to focus on the Ra. I don't want to be stuck. Surmei Ra. Get rid of all that. Turn away from the Ra, from the negativity, from the shame. Asay Tov. These are awesome days. We're invited up to the mountain again after the most embarrassing moment in history at the Chet HaEgel. Everything bad happened. The Chazal say everything bad you can imagine happened there. Worse than anything any of us have done this year. I don't know about you. I'm 46. I haven't done any new big Averos this year. I do the same stuff every year, basically. Hopefully a little bit more age developmentally appropriate, a little bit more respectful, a little bit more mechubad. I've gray in my beard. It's why I have a kid who got married, but I'm still doing the same garbage that I was doing then. It's the same ego, the same, being too critical, the same thinking I'm hot, whatever, the same stuff. Not introducing like creative new ways of rebelling against God. I didn't, whatever we did, it wasn't as bad as the Chet HaEgel. And even if it was as bad as the Chet HaEgel with the bridesmaids at the altar, Ribono Shalom says, come. Hashem El Racham V'Chanun. Just go through this thing. Just be with me. Tell me, talk to me about it. We're going to work it through together. And in the end, I got you. Salachti Kidvarecha. The end of the story is already written. It's already written. So the Alter Rebbe said that the nigun is not Chanenu Va'anenu Ke'in Banu Masim. That just focuses me. But in Chabad we sing, we know, did we freeze up? Because I don't hear everybody singing along. Rav Noam, check the Wi-Fi over there. What do we sing? Not me. Avinu Malkeinu, you. Ein lanu melech. We have such a benevolent king. King George, great guy, benevolent, good, great movie. Wonderful. Ein lanu melech. Because I realize the king that I'm standing before is also my dad. He wants good for me. He wants me to marhaba. He says, come back. I know. You think I don't know what you did? There's no secret. I examine your heart and search out your thoughts. Lebochin levavos b'yom din. There's no secret that you messed up. Do you know what the secret is? That's hidden from you, from me, but not from God? Is that beneath all of that rubble and darkness, there's such light. Beneath all that tarnish, those candlesticks are still so pure and beautiful. The secret that sometimes is hidden away from ourselves, that's what's being searched out of our hearts. Not, I'm going to find out. I know what you did. I know what you intended, your goodness, your kindness, how gentle you are, how much you meant to call your grandmother, how really, when you pretended like you didn't see that person and you didn't hold the door and you left. I know you wanted to. It's a secret, but I know. I see it inside of your heart. Beneath that macho, beneath that ego, beneath that moment of disgrace, I see real the schein. I see there that there's something so beautiful. Stop rolling in the mud. Come on. Come, let's go to the light together. Come back up to Har Sinai. I'm giving you another luchos. The first ones, they didn't last. I'm going to give you something new, something that's eternal, something that's beautiful. That's Yom Kippur, but it's Kidvarecha. So we start Vidui with Hoda'ah. Thank you, Hashem, for the opportunity to just be welcomed back, no matter what I did, no matter what I didn't do. Hoda'ah and Vidui go together. There's nothing that's more wonderful that we have to be more appreciative of than that opportunity. These days are Yamim Noraim. They're awesome days. There's days above. They're days that are awesome. They're wonderful days. They're wonderful days. If there was no Yetzer Hara to be dragged down to the darkness, and I say Yetzer Hara, if there was no Yetzer Hara to be anxious about it and to be in fear and dread and be distant from it, then the payoff wouldn't be so sweet. Rav Noam, Rabbi, we have a time for a quick story here. I have no idea what time it is. It's time for a quick story. Whoever's in the front there shaking your head, yes, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thank you. Beauty, there's time for a mice or no? Okay, fine. Okay, it wouldn't be a high holiday sermon without talking a little bit of politics, right? Okay, anybody hear of the political party in Israel called Degel HaTorah? Yeah, it's the Litvish Haredi party. It's not just Haredi, it's Litvish Haredi. Rav Shach of blessed memory, the Rosh Yeshiva of Ponevezh, Rav Shach was the one who started that party. He got that party started. It's not such a party, I don't know how much fun those guys have, but it's a political party, let's say. Anyways, they do their thing, and God should bless everybody. So the first Knesset member, or one of the initial Knesset members, was a fellow named Rabbi Avraham Ravitz. Anybody ever heard that name before? Rabbi Avraham Ravitz. It could be. Do you remember in the news a couple of years ago when Joe Biden, who's the president of that other country, where all those rich guys who went to Reshit that were so nice to know him were from? So do you remember when the president of Israel, Ruvi Rivlin, went to visit Joe Biden a couple of years ago? And he had his chief of staff was a woman, like a frum woman in a shaitel who had like 12 children. And Joe Biden kneeled down and gave her respect when he realized that she was this woman of professional influence who was also a mother of like 10, 12 kids. Did that make the news in Australia? That was like the biggest news in like the Jewish community in America, and Israel was all over the place. Front page news. Joe Biden literally got down on a knee and gave kavod to this woman who was the chief of staff of the president of Israel. He was like, oh, you got to give credit. My wife is a mom and professional and whatever. He doesn't know, like half the women in my neighborhood are like that, They're the ones who are the real successful ones. Anyways, that woman's name is Rivka Ravitz. Her father-in-law was Avraham Ravitz, Rabbi Avraham Ravitz, who was the first Knesset member for Degel HaTorah. And her first job was working for her shver, for the father-in-law as a secretary. Anyways, Rabbi Ravitz was a brilliant politician and a very good man. Before he was a politician, he was the menahel of a yeshiva. Menahel means he was like the administrator. He was like the principal, so to speak, of this yeshiva gedola. In Bnei Brak, a Litvish, Haredi, yeshiva gedola. Right? Not Montessori, not broad, not creative, not like neo-Hasidic. There's no jazz, nothing. Like as old school, straight down the middle as you have. I don't know if you have that where you guys are, but these guys don't mess around, They don't sing either of those songs as slichos. Like there's no sing. Anyways, I'm not saying bit. I'm just trying to explain here. Anyways, Rabbi Ravitz was the menahel of this yeshiva, and Rav Shach chose him to be this politician. And the story goes that Rabbi Ravitz one time, the mashgiach of the yeshiva, who's kind of like the spiritual supervisor, the one who takes notes, who like writes traffic tickets in the yeshiva. So he came in to the principal, the menahel, and he said, there's this kid, this boy, who we heard broke Shabbos in the dorm. He was seen breaking Shabbos, being mechalel Shabbat in the dormitory. Now, it's not 2023 when the story took place. This is about about 35 years ago. I mean, it was whatever. There's also like it's not like there's nothing to talk about. I don't care how much money your father gives to build a dorm. You're Mechalel Shabbos in a dormitory in Bnei Brak and Yeshiva Gedola, Litvisha Yeshiva Gedola. That's it. There's no converse. There's nothing to talk about. It is one way road out. So it clearly wasn't like the first time this happened with this kid, because when they called him for a meeting to come to the Menahel's office, he came wheeling his bag, like he had already packed his bag. He understood the writing was on the wall. He knew what was up. And he just came in there, like braced himself to like get it over the head, to get decapitated, by the Rosh Hashiva and the Mashgiach, to get dressed down, so to speak, right? He sits down in the office there. The Menahel looks at him like this, like, what? What can I say? The Mashgiach says, you know why you're here? The boy says, yeah, I know I am here. And he got like emotional. He said, I know I am here. I'm sorry. So they said, we're sorry too, and there's really nothing we could do about this. You understand? I mean, Chil Shabbos, Michalel Shabbat in the yeshiva. He said, I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry. They said, okay, listen, whatever. We hope that you find yourself and hatzlacha, so to speak. You know your way out. So the boy says, can I just one thing? Just this is one thing, if I could ask. He said, okay, what do you want? Like, you ask, you're on death row, you want a cigarette? What do you want to, go to the electric chair? You want supper? Like, what do you want? You want a steak? Ma? He says, just if there's one thing, please. And they said, okay, well, what could you possibly? He said, if you could find it in your heart that, like, if you have to tell my parents, could you not tell them that it was Chilul Shabbos? Can you not tell them that it was Sabbath desecration? It'll break my mother's heart. I see when she lights candles on Friday night, I see that she davens and she cries over me. I know she's crying over me. I mean, I know what I've caused, the pain that I've caused them. My father says to Hillel every morning, he's davening that I should be Er L'Chayid. He's davening that I should be a mensch. Like, it'll break him. I don't know if you could like say that I was just like lazy. I didn't keep I was a batlon. I blew off learning, or I distracted other people, or whatever. Anything. If you could it'll just be too hurtful to them. Mashgiach, Rosh Hashiva look at each other and say, okay, sure, well, okay. The kid stands up and, he's a little teary-eyed, but what's going to be? He takes his little bag and he starts heading down the hallway out of the yeshiva. As he gets to the main steps of the yeshiva, comes Rabbi Ravitz, the Menahel, behind him, and he taps him on the shoulder. And he says, excuse me. So he says, yeah. He says, I see you're schlepping a bag over here. Are you by any chance looking for a new yeshiva? He says, what? I'm gonna be. He says, you're looking for a new yeshiva? It happens to be here in this yeshiva, in our yeshiva, in our dormitory. A bed just opened up. We have an open bed in the dorm. I see you're here with a bag. Would you be interested in joining our yeshiva? We actually have an open spot. Kid says, what? I don't understand. The Ravitz looks at him and says, no, we have a spot in the yeshiva. If you're looking for a makom, if you're looking for a place, come join us. Marhaba, come join us. He says, I don't understand. So Rabbi Ravitz, this time he has tears in his eyes. He says, at your lowest moment, at your most embarrassing and shameful moment, you were not stuck in yourself. You were thinking of your parents. At your most shamed and pained moment, you had the magnanimity. You had you were able to transcend your own self and be beyond yourself and think about your mother and about your father, what they're going through. Someone with midos like you is somebody we want in our yeshiva. If you're looking for a fresh start, if you're looking for an opportunity to get things right and to start again, there's a spot waiting for you in the dormitory. Achat sha'alti me'et Hashem. You have your shot. We have a question. We have an opportunity to go before God and just shoot our shot. The Melech, we call that HaMelech. Our sights are on you. Ein lanu melech ela ata. There's no one else who can provide the unconditional love and opportunity for realignment, for renewal. There's no one else. And Hashem says, you just come to show up, be with me, open your heart and ask me for life. Ask me for happiness, for health, for goodness. Just be with me. Get reconnected. Recognize these are not days of fear and distance. Don't hide from me. Just bring your heart, bring yourself. Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem. Every one of us, old, young, in the middle, wealthy, those who struggle with parnasa. Everyone should have everything they need. But everyone, the wood choppers, the water carriers, the wisest among us, the privileged, the ones who have access, who are educated, who are not. Kulchem lifnei Hashem Elokechem. Hashem says, on this day, Rosh Hashanah, you're all with me, you're all before me. For those who understand what the essence of this pasuk, what this invitation really means, is not just all of us, because then it's again starts delineating the old, the young, the judges, the privileged, the smart, the wise, the poor, the woodchoppers. Kulchem is not just all of us. Kulchem means all of myself, all of me, the entirety of my experience, the entirety of myself, my dark spots, my weaknesses, my painful moments, my mistakes, my averos, my rebelliousness, all those things that I'm going to list in the vidui. Kulchem, Hashem says, bring me you, all of you. Bring yourself, bring your entirety. I want all of it. And let's straighten this out together, so that Yom Kippur we could celebrate. So Yom Kippur we could blow shofar at the very end of Ne'ilah, when we close ourselves off one another in an embrace of intimacy, of yichud. We can blow the shofar and look toward an optimistic year, toward a healthy year, toward a year of goodness, of blessing together. Just bring me your entire self. With that mentality, with that stance of gratitude, thanking Hashem for this privilege of starting again together, may you and I and all of us, all of our loved ones and all of Am Yisrael and all the good people of the world, all of the good people of the world, be signed, sealed, delivered for a happy year, a healthy year, a holy year, a year of growth, a year of success, a year of revealed good and blessing, a year of redemption for us personally, for our communities, for all of Am Yisrael, and for the entire world. It should be a Shana Tova Metuka, a happy, healthy, and sweet year for all. Thank you so much for the opportunity to remind myself and get my head a little bit straight, to get myself out of the mud and hopefully begin the process or continue the process together of shining. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim.
Jump over here of Judah. What a gift that was for me personally. I know, just looking around, kind of, even though we're thousands of miles away from each other and talking through the screen, I mean, your warmth and your wisdom just kind of just hit everybody within. You could see around the way the people were kind of taking this in, and I know personally was what I needed to hear, and I'm sure that this is with the nodding in the room, that's also what people need to hear as well. So I mean, I have a bit of homework. You've left me with some homework. Number one, these people, they don't know who fish is. They didn't know that. They didn't get that reference.
Cover.
They didn't get that. Don't. Yeah,
no, sorry.
Don't go too deeply into it, guys. But
string cheese incident. We're like,
they're not holding.
Goose? No, okay, sorry. Jazz.
Yeah, only jazz.
Sorry.
But also, maybe more importantly, that nigun, we do sing Avinu Malkeinu Ein Banu Masim. We sing that with heart. But maybe this year we'll sing Ein Lanu Melech Elata. We'll focus on that this year. That's
as long as you sing it with a smile, as long as it's joyful and hopeful, as long as it's experienced in the context of joy and hope and yearning, then it's beautiful. Natana Tokef is so beautiful. It's such a moment of vulnerability, but it's not sad. It's hopeful and it's optimism.
Amen. And I also want
to see you and each other in the book of life, brother. Let's enjoy it together.
Amen. And I didn't wish you a mazel tov before. Also, Reb Judah is marrying off a daughter very soon, which is wild to think, because she was, as we were saying, she turned 1 when I first got there. No, she was just born when I got to yeshiva, and now she's getting married, which is all very, very crazy. I have no hair, and you're turning gray, and it's all it's all happening.
Let's go bald and turn gray together, brother.
But we're just so blessed to have you and wish you a Shana Tova, and only revealed blessing for you and for all of Am Yisrael. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Shalom, everybody.
Thank you again to Charlene and to David for sponsoring. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Charlene. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. Bye. Bye, Sandy.